All right, Earthborne Rangers. I am very, very excited about this one. Um, Actually had our first game of it last night. Played with a group with a different person's copy in the group. I've got two copies. Just the base game. We played an initial day, which is kind of like a round or like a session. It's a campaign game, so one day is kind of like one session, and a campaign is 30 days. So we played a trial day, which was sort of out of the campaign just to understand how the game works. And then we played the first actual day, or at least part of the first actual day. And it was interesting. So I had seen a few videos about Earthborne Rangers before playing it. And the thing that stood out to me when we were playing it was I'd seen a lot of the stuff that was in the first day. So you kind of are in this starting location, kind of I guess in this valley. Uh, I forget the name of the actual. It's like this tree, the ranger sort of base that you've lived your whole life in, and that is kind of like your base camp. Um, and the things that were there were things that I'd seen in the videos. So like the Sitka buck came up, and that's like this card that I'd seen in pretty much all the videos that I saw about it. Um, and it was kind of like, oh, okay, so I've seen all of this already, right? Um, but it was very different from what I was expecting. The actual experience of playing was very different. Now, something else that was a bit off about the way that we played it was we played it 4-player, which is very much not the recommended player count. And I can see why. So there was a fair bit of downtime between turns, and a big part of the game seems to be the way that the world lives and breathes and interacts with itself without you even really being there. It actually it's kind of a strangely sort of Dark Souls vibe, and that Dark Souls is this world that is very I mean, Earthborn is very different thematically, but Dark Souls is this world that where things happen with or without you. Like you're there, the world doesn't care about your presence. They'll happen with or without you being there. And this very much reminded me of that in terms of the vibe, not the theme, like I said at all. This is a much more cute and cuddly, although there were some big bads and scary creatures that, like it definitely had that. But it's not as grim, so it's not grimdark, but it feels like the world is doing its own thing, whether you're there or not. And now, getting back to what I was saying, the problem with 4 players is um, all the things in front of all the other players don't really aren't really impacted by you or interact with you. And the more you sort of stretch out the game beyond like 2 players to 3 to 4, I'm assuming based on how this play went, the more it feels like it's divorced from that concept of the world living and breathing without you. It's kind of like it gets to my turn, and then the world right in front of me, and then the communal world lives and breathes without me, and does things, and things happen, and I'm not necessarily interacting with them all the time. But then nobody else's world does, and then it goes to the player over there, and then their world interacts with just them, and then player 3 comes along and their world interacts with just them. Um, and that felt a little bit off. And then only after we played did we go on to BGG, and we found, oh, okay, they people strongly don't recommend playing this at 4 players, or even generally at 3. People say solo or 2 is the best, and I can definitely see why that would be. So I asked this friend if we could use his copy because I did have a feeling I would be playing a solo, and he very much doesn't tend to play games solo. And I'm very much planning on doing that because I'm really interested to see how the game works when every turn results in the whole entirety of this world in front of you on your board. Does these interactions and things, interrelate and key off of each other, and stuff happens, and it's not so divorced like there's 4 separate worlds all happening. Kind of hard to explain. This game is hard to explain in general. I think a lot of the reviews have been making that very clear. It's very unique. So yeah, not the best experience at that 4-player count. Um, but anyway, like I was saying as well, actually, first I should explain what I'm doing now. So I only had enough sleeves, and yes, I'm sleeving this game. I know it's kind of against the whole philosophy of the game. Um, I feel less bad about it now, actually, because just today they announced that they are doing a bunch of new expansions for it. And unlike all the campaigns prior, they did not mention their sort of sustainable initiative, like the way that they produce these games locally or relatively locally, to be more eco-friendly. For the expansions, they're just making them all in the States and then shipping them around the world. So I saw that and was like, oh, okay, cool. So now that the money's rolling in, you're just going with whatever works. I I don't hold it against them at all. I think it's amazing what they've actually done just for the core game expansions, how they were produced sort of more locally. Um, it's not an easy thing to do, and if you want to see change, you need to be change, and I admire that a lot. Um, I do think there were some issues from what I could see. It looks like there were some copies maybe in Germany that were very poorly produced. Thankfully, I don't seem to have the same issues here as they were having there. But it certainly seemed like those copies were very, very badly produced. So anyway, I am sleeving the cards. I had started sleeving and I ran out partway through. I've just had more arrive. So I am going to complete sleeving. Now, my intention is I'm going to try to fit the core game and then Stewards of the Valley all in the base game box. Possibly the doubler. Oh no, the doubler probably won't fit, actually. I might just keep the doubler to the side because I don't really need it. I actually I didn't really fully understand what the doubler was, and what it would be for. And now I've gotten it, and then after playing a game without it, but the friend's copy doesn't have it, we realized we didn't really need it. Um, it wasn't like people weren't like fighting over cards or anything like that. So the doubler might just stay in its box to be brought out at such a time when we do need it, because it's just extra cards, basically extra cards of the same, which is kind of normal for LCG type games, but I hadn't really clicked onto how it would be used. Okay, so it looks like that just goes on the top there. But yes, so I am sleeving it. I will try to keep this and then the base game and Stewards of the Valley in the same box, along with the, I think, Moments on the Path expansion. Now, if I do go for the new expansions that are coming out, if I enjoy this enough, it looks like they had a good amount of variety, so I probably will. Spoiler alert, I enjoy it quite a great deal. I might need to look into a different storage solution because this box is going to be very, very full. Now, it does have another Legacy of the Ancestors expansion box, but it sounds like the expansions will add a lot of content to the core, like sort of the base game campaign. So you would naturally need to fit those cards together. So I might need to figure out how to store this better. I do have Marvel Champions over here, and I've got almost everything for it. And what I've ended up doing is just buying these sort of custom boxes and slapping the cards in here, in those boxes. Now, Earthborne Rangers doesn't have nearly the amount of cards that Marvel Champions has yet, so it's not as pressing of an issue. But I will need to think about storage. So anyway, so I was saying I'd seen a lot of the content when we played those first couple days, so that first campaign day. We'd seen the content already, and we kind of what extra didn't help the play is that the mock day that we played initially to get a sense of the game, we played in the valley, and then of course when you get to the first area in the actual campaign, that's also set in the valley. So we just kept seeing the same cards like Sitkabak, Sitkabak, Sitkabak everywhere, Thorny Brambles or whatever that card is. There's a whole bunch of the same cards. We just saw the same ones in the videos, and then in our first day, and then in our actual first day, the campaign day. And I was just like, okay, like I get it. Can we see some more interesting stuff? And then everyone was like, no, we're done. which is fair enough. It was getting pretty late. But what I saw and the experience I got playing it firsthand really intrigued me a great deal. Okay, so there's just more aspects. I guess they're just all, oh, there's some like 4s. I don't recall there being 4s in the base game aspect, so those are like quite extreme in their disparity across the different skills. Interesting. But yeah, so what I saw was really, really interesting, and it made me think, like, wow, this is going to be quite cool. I suspect a lot of the game will really live and die by the variety and the different environments that you explore and the way those environments interact within themselves, the way the different creatures within the different biomes interact. I can definitely see there being some really interesting situations where maybe some creatures from some biomes will interact with with like flora from another biome, and like all these interesting things happen. But the way that you draw, the way that the system generally works is you have these challenge cards, which kind of look like this. So this is a challenge card. And it's kind of like in Gloomhaven, where you draw a card for every time you do a thing or do an attack. In this case, it's you draw a card for every test that you do. And you look at your result based on the type of test that you're doing, and that's cool. It tells you whether you succeed or fail. That's great. But then the bottom part, which will be different, and different challenge cards, like here, this one's blue, but this one's red, and it's got a special symbol. There's, I think, 3 of them. And depending on which one shows up, everything in this communal area, and then in front of you, or in front of whoever you're interacting with, that has that symbol on it, that color and that symbol on it, will do the thing next to that color or symbol. And that thing is, and the way that those actions work is just absolutely fascinating. So, for example, find a good example here. It's just the starting area, so it shouldn't be too spoilery. Oh, I'm finding all of the people. Oh, because those are pivotal locations, right? Let me find non-pivotal. Oh my goodness. I am only finding... Okay, so... Goodness gracious. I am not... only finding heavily spoilerific things, it looks like. There we go. Prowling Wolfhound. So in this case, it has these symbols on it. It's got the sun, and then it's got that red symbol on it. So it's got those 2 symbols on the bottom, the red one and the yellow one. When that symbol pops up on the result of a test, the thing in that text box will happen. And that thing that happens doesn't care about you so much. It mostly seems to care about other things in the environment. So for example, if it's a Sitka buck, they might, or something along those lines, they might eat berries that are in your area. So if you've got some berries in front of you and they're within your reach and you're like, cool, I want to eat these berries, and then you draw a certain color, the Sitka buck might just eat the berries. And you're like, wow, I didn't have anything to do with that. That just happened without my real involvement. And that is so cool. Like one example, if 2 Sitka bucks are active within your sort of reach, like in front of you, and you draw a red card with the red icon on the bottom, they will fight each other and they might kill each other. And you don't have anything to do with that. You're just sort of standing back trying to stay out of their way. And I think you can get damaged as well from that happening. Predators will eat prey. Prey will try to escape from predators. Sometimes it's basic effects, like if you're trying to add progress to something, you might add more progress if it's a nice sunny day, and that would make sense thematically. Like, oh, I can see for ages because it's a clear sky and I'm at the top of a hill or something. It's just brilliant. Like, it just adds this thematic flair that is unlike anything else I've played, where most games you play, the environment cares about you. You are an important part of the environment. But not at all this, it seems. And I loved that. I thought that was so cool. So I'm quite convinced I'm going to enjoy playing this a great deal. So I'm going to give it a try, probably solo initially. Maybe I'll do like go beyond the first day and just kind of reset some things after just to see how it feels. But I'm quite excited about this game. One thing that did throw us off very slightly was it wasn't particularly well explained how to handle the adventure book. There's kind of this book here, which has just minor spoilers if you read too closely, but it's got some sort of different passages in it and things that you'll read. And there will be a little icon on the top of some cards that'll tell you, hey, go to this place and read this thing. And it wasn't immediately clear to us how exactly that worked. We did eventually figure it out, but it wasn't clear right away. Essentially, when a card enters play and it has a number pointing to the book on it, from what we can tell, you go straight to that part of the book and it will give you a set of sort of instructions saying, hey, if this thing has just entered play, go and read this passage. If you have cleared this thing or interacted with it in some way, once you do that, go and read this passage. And that was interesting, and it can be overridden by the current mission. So the mission might say, hey, instead of going to this passage for this person or these people, go to this one instead because it's relevant to whatever your current mission is. And that was unintuitive and strange, but once we figured out how it works, we were like, whoa, that's actually quite cool and could add some really interesting moments. Kind of reminds me of Seventh Citadel, where you will draw different cards based on the icon of your current mission, and those cards will be context specific to your mission. So I really, I thought that was really cool. One of the more interesting uses of a storybook that I've seen, there was a bit more writing than I thought there would be. There's a fair bit of sort of stopping to read a passage, which is fine. I didn't mind that, and it was well written enough. And there did seem to be like there were some moments of like choices within the dialogue, so the team might all decide to do this thing, to respond in this way to the dialogue, and then it might change things slightly down the path. Haven't yet seen exactly what impact that will have, but that's all right. So overall, I really like how it feels. I love the aesthetic as well. Like the art on these cards is just absolutely gorgeous as well. Like there's just a lute, a nice little instrument. And it's just beautifully done. It's evocative. It makes you think, wow, this world is like mysterious. It's like sort of this mixture of old and new, and old in this case being modern to us. Like you might see this building and it looks like a building from modernity, but it's been overrun with wildlife, and it just has this very cool aesthetic, very Horizon Zero Dawn / Forbidden West coded. I love those games, so it's right up my alley for sure. But in terms of how it makes you feel, I love the way this game makes you feel. I really do. Like I'm just sort of sitting back in awe of like the things that are happening without my involvement. The game feels alive and living and breathing in a way that most games don't. And in a game that reminds me of, like I said, sort of that sort of Dark Souls, like this world doesn't necessarily care about you, but it's much nicer and friendlier in a sense. There's an intro passage in the rulebook that I absolutely adored. It sort of tells you, here's some background about the designer and what I was thinking when I came up with this game, this concept, and what I wanted to what kind of experience I wanted to create. And I loved that as well. We actually read it out to the whole table when we started, and it got everyone sort of in that frame of mind of like, okay, this is kind of a game about exploration. And like, what if we just sort of had to walk everywhere and things happened on the way? How would our lives be different? Love that concept. Yeah, so I am. Oh, and these little mats. So I think you can get neoprene or some nice material mats officially. I just printed these out and laminated them. They worked perfectly. They actually helped a lot. I would highly recommend playing with mats. Probably less important with lower player count, in particular, like if you're playing solo, it's probably not necessary. But with multiple players around the table, it was essential to have the mats. Like it would have been very confusing without them. Like what cards are where, whose cards are whose, and which row are they in. would have been extremely confusing without the mats. So highly, highly recommend, if you're going to try this out, to give the mats a try. It seems like there's a lot of content in the game as well. Now, I suspect, based on how, again, the first sort of couple days went, I suspect that you will see the same content over and over and over again eventually. But the way that you kind of mix the different path cards together, I don't know that that's going to be a problem, because they're going to be interacting with each other in interesting ways. And it's kind of like, in a lot of games, how do I put this? In a lot of games, if you see this particular creature, like this deer, you're like, oh, cool, there's a deer. That's really cool. And then you come back and you see the same deer somewhere else, and you're like, oh, it's the deer again. Interesting. And then you go see it again, you're like, oh, it's the same deer again. It's like when video games have the same enemies over and over and over and over again, and eventually it just gets very, very repetitive, and you're like, enough already. I don't know that this will have quite the same issue, because the way that the different entities, like the different cards in the game, interact makes them more interesting in different contexts. And I think that's quite cool. Like, this game, probably more than most, has the potential to be incredibly replayable and for massive changes to be introduced by just adding a few extra cards. Kind of like a real ecosystem, actually. I really admire that. Like, I suspect if you take the predators out of a particular location for whatever reason, it would totally change the dynamic of how that location plays out. Again, like if you took the actual predators out of the location, like I live in New Zealand, and right now we are trying to get rid of all of our introduced predators to have like a predator-free country, effectively, because they are killing all of our local wildlife. This game feels like it understands that concept in a way that is fascinating. So yeah, I'm enamored with it, for sure. Keen to hear if you've played it at all and what your thoughts have been. I'd love to know if you've had some of the same experiences. I'd love to know how your experience has played out, if you've kept playing it and played it more. I'm definitely going to be playing it more, and I'll probably do an update when I do, just to say, have my suspicions been proven out as I've played? Like, has that variety been there? Have things continued to stay interesting and different? And have the interactions been as dynamic, and have they changed the feel of the game as much as I suspect that they will? I'm very fascinated. Now, another kind of problem is it is a 30-day campaign. That is a lot of sessions for one game. However, I think this has the legs to make that work. I really do. So I am looking forward to seeing how that shakes out, and whether we actually stick to it. If I play solo, I will almost certainly be sticking to it. I might even fly through it quite quickly. I play a lot of Marvel Champions, and I can see this kind of taking that space for at least a while, in that it seems relatively easy to set up and just go. So yeah, very, very excited to keep trying it out and stick to it. I will, like I said, I'll shuffle in the expansion for Stewards of the Valley. This Legacy of the Ancestors looks like it's a whole new campaign, which is awesome. So quite excited about the fact that there's more to see right away. I do wonder if there's maybe this is in the rulebook. I haven't really checked. We kind of did this as an experiment, but maybe this is a supported thing. I wonder if there's a way to have like more like one-off sessions, but also it feels like that isn't really the point of this game. It's not really a game like Marvel Champions. You go hero, villain, some modifiers, play a game. This does not feel like that. This feels like, no, this is a world, and you're going to respect this world and enter this world and do things within this world. And it's not just like a one and done thing. I mean, if I want that, I'll just play Vantage, right? If I want a one and done session with some exploration, I'll just pull out Vantage and play that. And hey, I'd recommend that. It's great. This feels different. This feels like, no, we want you to be in this world, and we want this to be a persistent experience that will change and evolve, and not just one that you jump into one session, play one session, and then you move on to the next session, and it's again, you just reset everything. This is not that. 30 sessions is a lot. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, so that's Earthborne Rangers. Oh, it also came with this this art book. Um, Absolutely gorgeous art book. So I'll just make sure I'm not spoiling too much. Yeah, this gives the vibe of the game very much so. So kind of like just beautiful, beautiful style. Very, very well produced as well. I'm not sure if all the copies in the world are this well produced. um, Given again, I think they're also locally produced, but it is beautiful. Just the art in this game is stunning, um, and very evocative, and I love it. Um, yeah, so Earthborne Rangers. I'm going to stick to it, and I will put together an update as I play more. But initial impressions, absolutely love it. Very, very impressed. Yeah, cool.